So, Bertha Lewis, you're a major leader here in the city of New York. As it relates to the state of New York and legalized marijuana and what should happen to the black community, so on, how should this all play out?
Well, first of all, in any passage of adult use, the legalization of marijuana, equity has to be day one. What we have learned from other states is that there's a lot of rhetoric about diversity, a lot of rhetoric about being just for those communities that had been affected by the war on drugs and the mass incarceration rhetoric. Unless it is written into the legislation day one, before you start spending revenue for subways, before you start spending revenue for the general fund, there must be substantial investment in communities of color who have borne the brunt. There needs to be substantial access to medical marijuana. Right now, medical is legal here in New York State, but black and brown people can't have access to it. There needs to be treatment, there needs to be education, and oh, by the way, as you know, the Black Institute, we are very concerned about minority and women business entrepreneurs. There has to be a way for MWBEs to participate in this multi-billion-dollar industry. And there needs to be expungement of people's records. Don't just tell me that you're going to have something sealed, because we know about things get unsealed. So equity has to be day one before you start spending any other tax revenue. Our communities have to come first. You can call it reparations, you can call it whatever you want, but that has to be the approach in New York State. Let us learn from the other states. Let us learn how they fell short on diversity and equity, and make sure that New York State does it right.
Should African American and Latino lawmakers block legalized marijuana year one if this does not happen?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The thing is, sometimes when we are sausage making in the legislature, people say, well, something is better than nothing. No. This is what we have been given, a big plate of nothing. Promises, and we'll have best efforts, and this is our goal. No. Unless it is actually written in the law, then black and brown legislators need to say, we represent the communities most harmed by the war on drugs. We represent the communities that need the investment first. There shall be nothing unless it's done right. Because if you don't do it right up front, it doesn't get better later on. And it's just a continuous fight. We know that the medical guys, the big corporations, Pepsi, Cola, Amazon, they're all waiting with bated breath to get in on this industry. So unless our electeds of color stand their ground to make sure that equity is day one, nothing should be passed.
So equity is a defining issue.
Absolutely.
Now, what should New York do like Oakland, California did in the Times story, in terms of half of the licenses go to people that have cannabis-related convictions, and as well as they fall below the income threshold? Is that what you're looking for?
Well, I think that we can learn from what California, what Colorado, even from New Jersey and the 8 other states. We can learn from that, because what begins to happen is what they began to say is, well, we would love to give those colored people licenses, but we just can't find any qualified. That's always the catch-22. Or where you can locate, if you are one of these former felons, you can only locate in some opportunity zone. So there's a ghettoization of where you're able to do this. And as we know, because the federal government still has not legalized this, you face all kinds of compliance and banking and capitalization issues. So again, I am saying that let's look at what California did, let's look at the other states, and let's make it better in New York State.
So the bottom line, $3 billion industry, and this has to be guaranteed.
I'm not going to settle for best efforts. I'm not going to settle for goals. I'm not going to settle for, let's do a fund over here on the side. There's this proposal by some of the medical guys. We'll have a minority program, and we'll give a $1 million grant to the community. And then, listen, we're sick of it. We're tired of it. We've seen it before, and we're not going to do it again. I'm reminded of the movie Get Out. Here's what I say. You will not put us into a sunken place in which we have to obey your commands. Corporations, millionaires, billionaires, John Boehner, we're going to get out. And we either have things that are equitable, and you actually put in place a community reinvestment with the community actually defining what that is and what that looks like, or you will get nothing. And we can stop it unless it is done correctly and unless it is done right.
So I close this way. Just one more time. So what you want, I want you to define what you want.
What we want is this. I don't want a situation where it's like, we'll give you half and then you take the other half. No. Whatever the revenues are in New York State, the first monies, not some percentage, must go to reinvestment in our communities. It must go to education and treatment. It must go to capitalization of minorities. It must go to making sure that there's expungement. It must go to actual job training and access to jobs. That's number one. So if we adequately fund that on a permanent basis and not just temporarily, now you can talk to me about tax revenues. But we haven't, the conversation so far has been in the reverse. It has been all about, well, how do we fix the subways and how can we put stuff in the general fund? And oh, by the way, the Liquor Control Board will control everything. No, that's done, that's over. We're not gonna settle for that. That's it. Either you actually reinvest substantially and permanently, and then you talk about tax revenues, or nothing at all.
I've known you a long time, and I'm just curious on this note. And you're always advocating on behalf of others or on behalf of community, never about you personally. Why is that?
I I don't know, is this some kind of flaw in my nature? No, here's the thing. I made a decision about my life a long time ago. And there's turning points in your life where you can either go this way, your parents send you to school and, you know, be middle class, be upper middle class, be rich. Or things happen in your life. I was born into a family where my father worked on the docks. You know, grown man. His only thing was to get in the union as a black man. My mother was a waitress and a house cleaner. They had 8 head of kids, and all of us got an opportunity to go to school and to work hard. And so growing up and growing up in poverty, actually in my generation, seeing the injustice that happened, I guess it was preordained. There wasn't nothing else I could do. And it wasn't anything else I want to do. You have to look at yourself in the mirror. And, you know, we went to church, we went to Sunday school. And one of the old hymns is, if I can help somebody along the way, then my living will not be in vain.